What is up, Janksters? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today I want to take a look at some promos that will be included within the Brothers War. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's already Transformers, we have the Commander decks, we have freaking so much around Brothers War already, but guess what? There is more, and that is actually a series of classic artifacts that are getting the old border treatment, and these cards are actually going to be handled similarly to the way the Mystical Archives were handled in Strixhaven, meaning that all of these retro frame classic artifacts will be available in draft, set, and collector boosters. You will see them all throughout. If you open one of them in draft, you are allowed to play it in your draft deck, and because of that, I'm very confident they will be coming to Arena as well. So keep that in mind. These will most likely impact Historic, but they will only impact Explorer if the card is already legal in Pioneer. I'm fairly confident that's the way Wizards are going to be handling that, so keep an eye out for that. Keep that in mind. The first one that I want to talk to that is part of this collection is an artifact that we all know, we all love, and many of us fear, and that is Wurmcoil Engine. It is a 6/6 death-touching lifelinker for 6 that when it dies, you create a 3/3 Phyrexian Worm artifact creature token with death touch, and a 3/3 Phyrexian Worm artifact creature token with lifelink. So it splits in two when it dies. Very powerful stuff. And if your opponent leaves this creature untouched, is probably just going to kill him anyway. So very, very powerful stuff. Great card. This is not Pioneer legal. It is too old for that. However, like I said, I bet we are going to be seeing it in Historic moving forward, so keep an eye out on that. And I'll be honest, if you're playing in Brothers War Draft and you get your hands on one of these, just rip it. Doesn't matter what your deck is. Doesn't matter what your synergy is. If you see this, take it. Like, it's that simple. It's just so strong, and it's colorless, so there's no reason not to run it. In any event, but as you can see, it has the old border treatment. It looks like in the old brown cards, which is pretty cool. There will also be a special version that I believe there's a higher rarity of in collector boosters, but you can find these in the set and draft boosters as well, and that is the sketch treatment. The idea behind this is the artwork is meant to represent like doodlings in an inventor's notebook is kind of the idea. So it's supposed to look like a sketch of the way the artifact was envisioned. In a lot of cases, it is reminiscent of the original art as we see here, but there are a couple where the sketch version looks very little like it doesn't really look like the final version or the final art at all, which is really cool because it's neat to see, you know, somebody's vision transforming before it like goes to print, if you will, or goes into production. So that's neat. I like it. It's a cool design, and this is like the super rare version. So you might open the original art on the old border frame, which is still pretty darn cool, or you might open the sketch artwork. Now, there is one other treatment that they will be giving to a handful of these cards that is actually a first in Magic the Gathering that I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on, and that is serialized versions. And what I mean by that is they are going to be printing unique cards that are, well, unique. And here for example, is the Wurmcoil Engine. So the Wurmcoil Engine serialized versions, they'll be foil, and there will be 500 of them printed. Period. That's it. Just 500, and each of them will have a unique number. These are only available in collector boosters, which I think makes a lot of sense. They are very limited. They're very tough to come by. They're kind of a golden ticket, if you will, and they're a collector piece. That's the entire point and purpose. As we saw, there are a ton of different versions of Wurmcoil Engine if you just want to play with it in your deck. But if you really want something rare and special, you can get a Wurmcoil Engine that has a unique number on it, and you'll know if you have number 129 of 500 Wurmcoil Engines, it will be the only card in existence to be a Wurmcoil Engine that has the number 129 in that spot, which is pretty darn cool. And if you open number 420 of any of these, save it. That's going to be worth a mint. Just saying, because let's be honest. Yeah, if you get number like 420, number 69, and then of course number 1 in 500, like, if you can get a play set of one of these cards, this number's 1, 69, 420, and 500, Yahtzee, you did the thing. Good work. But yeah, so I think these are going to be incredibly valuable. Like, there's no question. These are going to be incredibly valuable, but they are just for collectors. The average player of the game doesn't need to worry about these. And that's really cool. That's perfect. I love this because this gives your product a lot of value and a lot of collectible value and a lot of merit long term, but it doesn't impact the people who are just looking for functional game pieces. So I think that's absolutely perfect. I'm really glad they're doing this, and I want to see more stuff like this. I want to see more unique collector pieces that are reprints, like special reprints of cards that already exist in other formats. I think that's great. So yeah, Wurmcoil Engine, great example. Now we have a couple other cards that I want to talk about real quick that are going to be getting this treatment as well, in kind of this retro artifact frame, that are pretty darn cool. We have Ashnod's Altar. This is a classic. I mean, we know Ashnod. She is Mishra's, like, you know, prime lieutenant, like, you know, the #1. And she's vicious, like straight vicious. And, you know, this altar is a staple in a lot of decks in formats where it's legal, which is Legacy, Vintage, Pauper, and Commander. So like this is a Commander staple in any sacrifice deck. Like it just fits in all of them. It's a sacrifice. You sacrifice a creature to produce mana. If it's a creature that can recur itself in any way, a lot of the time you can spend the mana to recur the creature and stuff gets weird. Like it's an infinite combo enabler in phenomenal, in so many decks that care about infinite weird combos that involve sacrificing stuff. Ashnod's Altar is an absolute classic. It also has a cool sketch frame. I also find it interesting, like if this is meant to be Ashnod's sketch of what the altar looks like, she seemed to be more focused on the subjects than the altar itself. And to be honest, that's kind of telling to like what she was really interested in and what the focus of her research was. So I like that. I think that's neat. All right, next up we have Goblin Char Belcher. If you have not played with Goblin Char Belcher, you're missing out. It is a wombo combo finisher, and your deck has to be built so weird to make this work. But my goodness, it's awesome when it works. And so Goblin Char Belcher is a 4-mana artifact for 3 tap. Reveal cards from the top of your library. Until you reveal a land card, Goblin Char Belcher deals damage equal to the number of non-land cards revealed this way to any target. If the revealed land card was a mountain, Goblin Char Belcher deals damage, double that much damage instead. Put the revealed cards on the bottom of the library in any order. So this card is all about blasting your opponent for a lot of damage. You could theoretically use it as removal, but it's going to be a little dicey because you're never sure how much damage you're going to deal unless you're manipulating the top of your deck in some way. The old school, the way that I have seen it played in the past is there were a couple of combos that would basically allow you to stack your entire library. You had to work to get there, but you could do it, and if you could do that, you could then rip a Goblin Char Belcher and deal like 40 damage to your opponent's face. It's pretty violent and pretty crazy when it works, but it's a goofy combo that is trying to play on a different axis completely, and I like that. There are other Char Belcher decks that are available in like Modern and things like that that do something similar, that can set up a weird combo, or where the deck is designed in such a way that there are very few lands and most of them are mountains, so like the chance, like every time you rip it, you're probably gonna deal a lot of damage. It's a really cool card that encourages weird deck building. It's neat that they're giving it a special treatment here. All right, we also have Howling Mine. This is another Commander staple. For 2 at the beginning of each player's draw step, if Howling Mine is untapped, that player draws an additional card. Everybody just draw 2 cards. This is a group hug staple. If you have stuff that cares about drawing cards in your deck, you want this. Like, I actually have Howling Mine in a number of my Commander decks, some of which synergize with it, like Xyrus, the Writhing Storm, that like creates snakes every time your opponents draw additional cards. Like, that works great with this. But I have other decks where I run Howling Mine just because. It doesn't do anything other than keep the gameplay flowing. By giving your opponent stuff in their hand, you're giving your friends stuff to do at the table. And that's what you come to Commander for. At least that's what I come to Commander for. So I like Howling Mine. I think it's an awesome Commander card. Yeah, it's just delightful. It's also legal in Modern, just throwing that out there. It's not legal in Pioneer, so we're not going to, I don't believe we're going to be seeing this enter Explorer unless it gets some kind of weird, like reprint treatment in some supplemental product down the road, but this won't do it. All the same, really cool, and it's got the original art, which is awesome. And then one last card I want to talk about. This one is interesting because it is Pioneer legal. So Explorer players everywhere, this is going to be coming to Arena, and we're going to be rocking it, and that's pretty darn sweet. It is the Phyrexian Revoker, which is a 2/1 for 2. As Phyrexian Revoker enters the battlefield, choose a non-land card name. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated. And if that text sounds familiar to you, well, it might be because you already know Phyrexian Revoker from various things, but it's also possible that you've ever played with Pithing Needle. This is basically Pithing Needle on a 2/1 body. So that's actually really cool. Now, it is vulnerable to damage in a way that Pithing Needle is not. So it's not strictly better Pithing Needle. However, you could copy it, by using like copy creature effects. Or, I mean, at the very least, you have 2 power on the board, so you can attack with it, which, you have to jump through some hoops if you want to attack with the Pithing Needle. So it's really cool. I think Phyrexian Revoker is a really neat card. It provides a lot of cool utility, and it's just a good bread and butter, hoser. You target your, name your creature's planeswalker, name your opponent's planeswalker, creature lands, you name it. This thing can shut down a lot, and I think it's pretty darn cool. I have a feeling in Explorer, this thing's going to be naming Witch's Oven a lot. Just throwing that out there. But if your opponent has a Mayhem Double Down, it's not going to survive very long. So you probably still want a regular Pithing Needle in that case. But all the same, Phyrexian Revoker is a really cool card. Thematically, it fits. Because we're dealing with Phyrexians right now in the story. So bring on more Phyrexians. Just keep them coming. All right. Thank you so much for checking out the video. I appreciate it. All in all, I'm excited. I think the serialized cards, I think these promos being handled in the Mystical Archive style makes a lot of sense. So I think it's neat. Wizards, keep it coming. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And thank you, dear viewer, for checking out the video. It means a lot. And thank you for making it until the end. I'll catch you on the next one.